Hey everyone! Welcome to Wednesdays with English with a Twist. This is Shanti Kumaraswamy Street calling from London. And first of all, I want to say a great, huge Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope you had a great Christmas, great Hanukkah, a great Orthodox Christmas, and that you had managed to get some rest, relaxation, and are now raring to go for 2017. So this is our first class for the year, so I'm super excited, and it's lesson 10 of the series in Wednesdays with English with a Twist. So please join in, drop me a line, tell me where you're from, and if it's the first time you're following these classes, I just want to welcome you. This are classes about business English, and we look at all sorts of things to do with vocabulary, grammar, idiomatic expressions, anything and everything to do with business English. So if you're someone who needs to become a good, confident communicator in business with English, then this is the place to be. So that's great. So anyway, listen, so without delaying anything, let's start with today's lesson. But first of all, I just wanted to say that soon, in the next 2 weeks, look out for a little announcement from me, because I am finally going to be launching that small talk book of recipes that I promised you. So it's going to be the 10 must-have recipes you need to engage in small talk with English. So I'm super excited about it. I've been working hard putting together the ingredients and putting together the procedure and how you can mix all those ingredients to produce confident and engaging small talk moments where you find yourself in. And I have you and my readers, my blog subscribers to thank for, because you gave me lots of ideas on what you want to see. So I'm busy working on that. So we're going to have that book, and we're also going to have a workbook. Now, if you want to have sneak peeks and see what's happening and the book cover that's being designed at the moment, then don't forget to join my perfectly stimulating small talk club, and the link will be in this at the end of this lesson. And join in, because then once you're in that club, you'll get exclusive sneak peeks, and you'll also get the access to my early bird discount when I launch the book. So I have 2 weeks left for that launch, so it's all hands to the deck, as we say in English. So it's all work now from now on, so to get everything ready for you guys. But anyway, so do let me know where you're from. I see here that Shai Madriaga is saying hi from Philippines. Hi Shai, lovely to meet you. I don't think I've seen you before. You've not introduced yourself to this lesson, so great to see you. And tell me what time it is, because here in London it is 3 o'clock, or to be precise 3:05, and so it's quite cold. I spent this morning in London with my full immersion client. I have a lovely client from Germany with me for a week's full immersion course, and we went into London and I showed him around a bit of London, and we engaged in a lot of small talk, and that was great. I've left him in London, and so hopefully I'll see him around about 7 o'clock for dinner, and so I think he's going to visit different parts of Mayfair, the West End of London. So now that we are beginning of the year, it's the 11th of January, what are your plans? What is going to happen? What's happening in your lives? Are you back at work? For some people in Europe, maybe this is the first time back in work after last week. For us in Britain, we went back last week, so we're into the second week. And this year, in the beginning of January, we start off with lots of plans, don't we? We have lots of business plans we have to look at. We perhaps have New Year resolutions that you set at the end of the year, and you're thinking, I'm going to try and make these work, these plans, these resolutions, whether it is to lose weight, whether it is to go running more often, whether it is to read more books, So, you know, in our personal life, we have lots of New Year's resolutions. But in our professional lives, often if you've got businesses, then you're looking at making plans. And it's all about planning, isn't it? I, for one, have been looking at now the next year and what I'm going to be doing. But having said all that, I shared with my readers on my blog, my subscribers, that I don't want to make too long-term plans. I think the best thing to do is always to have short-term plans and try and focus more on what how I'm going to achieve those short-term plans. And that can be the same even when you're looking at in how you're going to improve and work on your English. Is set short-term goals and then say, okay, now how do I achieve that short-term goal? And when you've achieved it, fantastic. There's that sense of satisfaction when you can just do that tick box and go done, check. And that's what I want to do, certainly for my business. So my first thing is to launch this book and then gradually work towards what my next step is. And not to make too many long-term plans. Because if you're like me, I've done that before and I make these long-term plans and then they're not happening. And they're not happening as fast as I'd like. And then eventually you just ditch them. You just think, oh, you know, forget it. I'm just not going to bother. And that's difficult. And you know, then you feel very demoralized and you think, gosh, you know, why are my plans, they never come to fruition. What do I need to do about it? So I thought, well, let's make short-term plans. So share with me. Please tell me. I'd love to know what your plans are and how, you know, what are you thinking about doing? How are you going to be doing it? If you've even thought about that. I mean, one of my biggest things is to focus more and focus on the projects and don't get too distracted by all sorts of other ideas that come along, because we do, don't we? You hear about one idea and you think, oh, that's a great idea. I think I'll do that. Or, you know, oh, wow, yes, I heard about, you know, this other thing. Oh, let me try that too. And then you sort of try it a bit and then you do a bit there and then it all just goes a bit, you know, start a bit and then maybe it lasts for about 1 or 2 weeks and then you think, well, that was, oh, okay, now I'll move on to the next thing. So not so great. Anyway, I've got more people coming in and saying, hi, Happy New Year from Malaysia. Look, yeah, lovely to meet you. Sajesh from India. Yes, you know, I had a great 2.5 weeks in Malaysia and I didn't have such a relaxing time in the end in Malaysia because my husband unfortunately fell ill. He got a serious ear infection. I'm sure I shared that all with you. And that meant he ended up in hospital. And so it was a bit of a frantic time over Christmas. So not the most relaxing of Christmases. Hi, Philippines. Hi. Oh, how do I pronounce your name? Sartunia? No. And Rifat from Dhaka. Lovely to meet you guys. Right. The Far East is looking busy and Bangladesh, and it's great. Hi, everyone. So now talking plans. And of course, you know, we are talking the English language. We're talking business English. We're talking about how you can build your vocabulary to communicate better. So today's class is all about the verbs that we often use with the word plan. So we can plan things, so we're using the word plan as a verb. This time we're looking at plans as a noun, and we're going to look at the different verbs we can use that go with plan, that, in other words, collocate with plan. Now, this is a post that I wrote 2 years ago, the beginning of 2015, and so I thought I'd share that with you and give you sort of examples of how you would use these 12 verbs that I want to share with you today. Alva Hazer, hi, hello, I'm very well. How are you? And where are you from? Sorry, I'm interacting with my audience as we chat. So let's look at these 12 verbs that we would use with the word plan. First of all, let's look at, and I'm going to get all the examples, as I always do, are going to be the examples for the business world. when you are in business and you're working on your plans. Now, the first one is sometimes we have to abandon a plan. If you've got to abandon a plan, so say for example, with the best will in the world, you've made, you've got this wonderful plan, and things just don't work out. It's just not going to work, and so you have to decide to abandon the plan. And it could not be your fault. It could just be the circumstances. And in business, maybe where you're doing something and maybe the markets change or customers change, or whatever, for whatever reason, you have to abandon the plan. In other words, you have to just give it up and do maybe something else. So we have to abandon the plan. And sometimes if you've got a plan maybe to meet someone, or you have a plan that you are going to be doing something and then something unexpected happens. So you maybe have a plan to go on holiday. We, for example, in Malaysia, we had a plan to go and visit certain parts of Malaysia, and we had to cancel the plans because my husband got ill. So that was unfortunate, and so you have to cancel. So abandoning a plan, canceling a plan, they're sort of similar. But so sometimes you have to cancel a plan. Maybe you can take it up another time, but sometimes we have to do that. So canceling your plans, abandoning your plans. The third verb that we can use is to devise a plan. So let's have a look at that. So maybe you are, as a business, you are losing market share to a competitor, and you think, okay, now listen, we need to devise a plan on how we are going to recoup this lost market share. So you devise a plan. So another verb, phrasal verb we could use is to work out a plan, to devise a plan. I need to devise, so maybe you and your team, you get together and you try and work out a plan, a strategy on how you're going to do something. So we devise a plan. Similarly, if you're devising a plan, we can also use the fourth verb is to formulate a plan. Another word you could hear, you'll hear sometimes people say, we need to formulate a plan. So say, for example, you are planning a marketing campaign and you have a team, and you're going to market maybe a new product or a launch. So you put together, you get together with your team and you then formulate the plan, formulate the launch plan, formulate the advertising campaign. So formulating it is almost like the word of formula. You're creating things. So similar words of devising a plan, formulating a plan. It's creating that plan, thinking about it, how you're going to do it, working it out. Yeah. So, I know I'm introducing more verbs, but that is it. You've got formulate and you've got to devise a plan. So you've devised a plan, or you formulated a plan. Now the next thing is verb number 5 is to implement that plan. So what do we say when we talk about implementing plans? Is that you're going to put that plan into practice. So you have perhaps devised a plan, you have formulated a plan to run a series of tests. So you're then going to implement the plan because you've got a series of steps or maybe a procedure, and now you're going to implement that plan to make it happen. So we talk about implementing the plans. We're implementing. The verb that is most commonly used with plan, of course, is to make a plan. So that's why I think, make is so commonly used. We use make, we use do, we use take. But when you make plans, I'm making plans for the weekend. What are your, I'm making plans for my future. So easy, we can, you can just use that. That's a very common verb. And in fact, I'm always making plans. I'm forever making plans. And are you someone who makes plans? Do you like making plans? But do you also then implement those plans? So, good, you can always try and use these verbs and try and then put them into your sentences. So, are you making plans at the moment? You imagine we're looking at verb number 7. I'm going very quickly over these. Please tell me if I'm going too fast for you. You make plans, you formulated a plan, you've devised a plan, and you make it public. You tell people these are your plans. Imagine you are running a business and you put forward another verb that we can have, you share your plans with maybe your shareholders, maybe your employees, maybe your colleagues. And they don't necessarily agree with your plan. In fact, what they are doing is they're going to oppose the plan. We often have, you probably have, where there are plans, particularly if you think about the politicians, the government have plans maybe to build a new railway station, or they have plans. For example, we have had ongoing battles with the government who have plans to build a 3rd runway for London Heathrow Airport. And there's been a lot of opposition, and many people have opposed the government's plans. So if you oppose a plan, means you do not agree with those plans and you fight them. So you oppose the plan. And many people do that. Often, you might hear about people who, often, as I say, with governments, they will put forward a plan, they have formulated a plan, and they put it forward to you, they share it with us, and you would say, no, I don't agree with this, I'm going to oppose this plan. And that is what, you might have as a business. You might want to do something, but then people can oppose it. And you then have to justify your plans. So quite hard, so when people are, for example, unpopular plans could be if you need to introduce pay cuts, right? Nobody wants to have a pay cut, certainly not at the beginning of the year, just after Christmas, when everyone has spent a ton of money. And then you say to them, okay, now we're going to implement some pay cuts. And you think, I'm going to oppose that. No, not happy with that. So that's oppose. So we've come to number 8, verb number 8. Now, number 8 would be the verb outline the plan, to outline. Now, if you imagine to outline something, if you imagine you have a line and you are you're drawing out a line on the outside of something. When we outline a plan, we are giving just the basic idea of a plan. You're not giving the details, so you outline a plan. So, you could maybe put forward a suggestion to your boss. You say, I've got this idea and, I think, this would really work. And, I'd appreciate it if you could consider it, this plan. And, he or she might decide, okay, I always welcome good ideas, new ideas for the business. Okay, give me, outline your plan and then put it to me. And you think, okay, great, I'm going to outline this plan. And so you give the basic, the sort of key idea of the plan, and then you submit it to your boss for them to study it, to think about it, to consider it, and then decide whether they like it, whether they're going to accept it, or whether they're going to oppose that. So there you have it. So that could be an outline. So you can outline a also proposed plan. And we often do that, particularly in business meetings, when you come up with some ideas and then during the course of the meeting someone says, right, okay, let's prepare an outline, let's outline this plan, and then let's talk about it at the next meeting. I'm just going to stop here and say hi to everyone. Rifat, I need a speaking partner to develop. Yeah, there are, try and hook up with some people maybe on meetups if you have, but I'll give you some ideas later. But nice to meet you. And hi everyone. And great, thank you so much for seeing me live here, Asma. And hello from Thailand. Hey, getting Thailand, Philippines, a lot of people from, thank you so much for joining because it's quite late for you guys. I know it is. So we have got to verb number 8. So outline a plan. Okay, now we talked about abandoning plans, we talked about cancelling plans. Another verb that you have sometimes, you know, if you have to abandon a plan or cancel a plan, is to scrap the plan. So sometimes we hear that, you know, that maybe the government has been working hard on a plan, but now they've had to scrap it. Now to scrap it is just to say, okay, that just doesn't work, it's never going to work. Just abandon it. It's another word to say. They've had to scrap the plan and start again. Yeah, so sometimes that's just how it is, you know. And you know, in life this is what it is, isn't it? In businesses we have to try something, and if we don't try, if it doesn't work, okay, we have to often be courageous enough, brave enough to say, let's scrap the plan and start again, you know, and then just do that. So you scrap that plan. Hi Argentina, London calling. Lovely to meet you, Sylvia. And another way to, you know, so you scrap that plan, and you know, so scrap is like, oh God, you okay, fine, forget it. You're kind of almost fed up. You've tried, and you know, but never mind. The other word could also be that you've had to shelve the plan. To shelve a plan is, yes, you maybe give up for a moment, but if you imagine a shelf is where you put books. You can book a book. You can shelve a plan. But when we shelve a plan, it could also mean that you might reconsider the plan maybe in the future. So it is not completely scrapped. It's not completely abandoned. You know, you could sort of say, okay, let's shelve this plan for the moment because the situation is not right. The economic climate is not right. You know, it's just the wrong timing. So let's shelve it. We're not going to completely forget about it, but we'll come back to it at another time. So shelving that plan, and then maybe when things are better, we can bring it back. And, you know, some people have done that. You know, it's interesting because when I hear about people shelving the plan and then you hear about these success stories, I don't know about you. In this world where we always talk about success stories and we hear about these success stories, and it's so easy to think that everyone else is successful, but me, maybe no, you know, things are harder, it takes me more time to do things. But when you then read a story behind a success story, like for example, take the story of Apple, Steve Jobs, when he started. You know, they started with the Apple Mac, the old Apple Mac, and then they had to shelve the plans. They had to, you know, just, it was the wrong thing. It wasn't the right moment. And then, but they didn't give up. You know, then they came back after a few years. They thought about it. They found different ways. They devised new plans. They formulated new ideas, and then thought, let's try it again. And then you realize, okay, you know, some plans are good. You know, it's good sometimes to just shelve them, forget about them for a while, and then come back later, relook at it with fresh eyes. Maybe you have a different perspective on it, and then you can then you know, look at it and then devise maybe a new plan with some new changes to it. And then that could work for some people. So, you know, so shelving plans are not always that bad. And in fact, you know, I think sometimes it's a good idea to do that every now and again. So there we go. So shelving the plan. Now we come to number 11, the 11th verb, which would be to unveil a plan. Now think of a veil. A veil is something that you put to cover. Think about a lot of Muslim ladies who wear a veil, wear the veil So the veil is to cover the bottom part of your face. So when we unveil, the opposite is you are exposing, you are showing. And we often talk about in some situations where we will, you have formulated a plan, you've devised a plan, you've been working on this plan, and then maybe at a conference or at a cocktail party that you have organized for your top clients, your top shareholders, and at that cocktail party or at that event, you unveil your plans for developing the business or developing a new project. So that's when you reveal what your next ideas are. So often we see this in with governments, with public officers. They will unveil their plans for the new year, or you're sharing with people what you want to do. And then, of course, finally, and I already mentioned this verb because I used it earlier, is to work out your plans, which is the phrasal verb to work out. So, it's when you want to work out a plan, you are thinking about it, you're discussing it with your team, and then you devise the plan, you formulate. So if we can put them all into categories, these verbs that we've looked at, you're looking at devising, formulating, working out the plans that come together. If plans don't go the way you want them, you might have to abandon them, to cancel them, to scrap them. Maybe you just have to shelve them and then come back to them at another stage. Then you might have to outline your plan. So you're giving the basics of a plan before you go into detail. So you outline your plans. I'm going to outline my plans for the year. That just can keep. I can change them in the meantime, but that gives me the idea. So I hope I've given you some, so let's look at what we're looking at in terms of recapping the verbs we can do with planning, which is first of all to abandon a plan, cancel a plan. We can devise the plan, as we looked at. We're devising a plan together, or you can formulate a plan. And then, of course, with all plans, you want to put them into practice. So you want to implement the plan. You want to get it to work. So you're implementing the plan. And we always say, I like to make plans. So that's the very common verb we use. And some people, you might have the best plan in the world, but some people will oppose your plans. And so that's not such great news. So then you have to fight that. But, that's how it happens. Then you have the outline. You can outline a plan, as we talked about, scrapping, shelving, unveiling the plan. And finally, you work out your plans. So lots of verbs there. Don't worry if I shared them too quickly, or maybe I was mixing them all up together, because you will have a copy of the post that I wrote that also gives you ways that you can use it. And try and incorporate some of those verbs that I've shared with you in your language where you talk with people about plans, and see how you can develop those. And and maybe that can work for you. But I hope that's been helpful for you in terms of planning. And I'd love to know what your plans are for the next even month. Last night I had a mastermind group with I have fellow teachers, and we were talking about what our 2-week plan is going to be. So we all shared and unveiled our plans for the next 2 weeks, because we're meeting in 2 weeks' time, so then we can discuss what what our plan was to do and whether we actually implemented the plan. So we're hoping, so we're all going to, because we want to be held accountable, and that's the thing with plans, isn't it? Because we can devise plans, we can formulate them, we can even implement them. And the implementation of a plan is often the hardest bit, because it's quite easy to make plans, isn't it? I mean, you know, I write down, I make a notes, I think about lots of ideas, and then you think, okay, now I've got to focus. How am I going to implement this plan? How am I going to put it into practice? And that's the hard bit, because what it needs is a lot of focus. And in businesses, that's what we need. We need to focus on what we're going to do. So it's taking them in small little steps and gradually work our way through that plan. And it's the same as for you as business English learners, how you're going to implement that plan to get to becoming a more confident, more effective communicator in English when dealing in business with other people. And so it's how you're going to do that. And I'd love you to tell me how you plan to do that, and maybe share it and try using some of those verbs. Perhaps also give me an example of when you devised a plan, tried to implement it, but then had to abandon the plan for whatever reason. Can you think of a situation when that happened? And what lessons did you learn from them? You know, share with me on, why not share with me on my website? So my website, write to me, drop me a line through my website, which is englishwithatwist.com. And I'd love to know, because, that way we can discuss how, what were your plans? How did it work? And how did it work out for you? Were they successful? Were they not successful? So what was the next step? So I hope I've given you some ideas and ways to use all these verbs in with the word plan. And don't forget to if you want more of these sort of things, to join me on next week's live lesson, Wednesdays with English with a Twist. And also don't forget, if you want to get my free guide on how to be a better communicator, I share 10 ways you can become a more confident communicator in English when dealing in business. Then do sign up to my free guide. It will then automatically give you my free weekly lessons through my blog, where I share many things. And my blog is, I post a weekly lesson every Friday, and you'll receive that. In the meantime, there's the Facebook live lessons every Wednesdays. And as I said before last week, the class, don't forget to sign up to my Small Talk book club, because I will be launching that book in 2 weeks. And if you want to have some sneak peeks of the scenarios, the recipes I share, where we put together the ingredients of phrases, of verbs, of words, on how you can create engaging and interesting expressions and moments of small talk in your business, then you will need that book. It's 10 must-have recipes. I will also be adding a workbook for you where you can then put those into practice. So all those links will be in the notes on the together with this lesson when I put it onto the Facebook page. But in the meantime, I know it's now 3:35 for me in the UK. I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me to today's class. I hope you found it useful. Please do let me know. And don't forget, our next class is next Wednesday, the 18th of January, and where we will be talking about small talk. Funny that. And there will actually be situations that some of you wrote to me and shared with me in my blog. You wrote to me when I asked you, and there are some very interesting situations that I want to share with you on how you can overcome some difficult moments with that, and that will also be included in my book. So don't forget to join that. In the meantime, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. Please share this with other people if you think this is useful for them. But this is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, saying ciao for now, and see you guys next week on Wednesdays with EWAT, English with a Twist. Ciao. Bye for now, everybody. Take care.